Welcome to The Gavel, everyone. I'm Terry Ikumi. Let's take a look at what transpired in both chambers of the National Assembly this past week. Beginning with the Red Chamber. Now, the issue of the 25 schoolgirls abducted from Maga community in Kebbi State was raised by the senator representing Kebbi North, Senator Abdullahi Yahya, as a motion of urgent national importance.
This kind of terrorization of our students, our children, must stop. That's why I call this a slap on the face of this nation. We cannot just allow this kind of situation to continue like that. Something must be done. I know that at one point, when there was this security threat in the Kebbi South Territorial District, in particular that area, that school was closed. Some sanity was brought back, and somehow we thought everything there was halal. So the school was reopened again. This particular matter should be taken very, very seriously by the federal government and our security agencies. We should move immediately to rescue these girls and apprehend the terrorists who had the audacity of carrying out this dastardly operation. While praying for the quick recovery of the wounded principal, I also want this distinguished Senate to observe a minute's silence in honor of the deceased vice principal of this school.
And outraged by the persistence of the terrorists' assault on the schoolgirls, more lawmakers weighed in on the matter.
What has the girl child done wrong to people in Nigeria? The girl child. Because this offense mostly, this criminal act is mostly and always against the girl child. I knew how we suffered with the Chibok girls, especially the issue of Leah, whom I kept the parents in Plateau State for a very long time. Mr. President, I want to emphasize the point led by the former Senate President. What is wrong with the Safe School program? I was a member of the Safe School program, Mr. President, and that went a lot in helping to secure schools. It was also funded by the World Bank. So if today, under Federal Ministry of Education, so today, if we are beginning to have a reoccurrence of the Chibok girls affair, let us call that organization to order. Let them come and explain to us all the budget that is done for safe schools, what has gone wrong with it.
There are one school of thought who imagined that these terrorists could be reached and then discussions take place. There is another school of thought who thinks that these terrorists should be met with all the force required to meet them. And that is the entanglement, Mr. President, we are in. It is late for all of us.
You have 2 seconds remaining.
You took my 30 seconds saying, so it took the parliament like ours to come up and tell this government whether we can appease these terrorists or that we can go after these terrorists. Lives have been lost. Imagine if any one of us has a daughter now in captivity in Kebbi. Will you be sleeping? Is it possible for you to survive when your own daughter is taken? And because these daughters are not ours, we begin to be political and lackadaisical in meeting the expectations of our people. It's a bad day for me, sir.
The Senate then adopted the resolutions of the motion aimed at enhancing military capacity.
People are turned security to a business. So we should not monetize the death of people by those who are living by appropriating funds in the name of protecting schools, and as we know now, the schools are not protected. What happened to the money?
So we will set up the safe school program committee investigative panel immediately to look into the situation.
Meanwhile, the senators shelved the controversial proposal to amend its standing orders in what seems likely to clear the path for the return of presiding officers. The amendment suffered instant setback when one lawmaker raised an argument.
People who are holding office now or who have held office before, as Senate President or Deputy Senate President or principal officers, automatically have an age over anybody who wants to contest for any office, no matter his experience, no matter his ranking. For example, if a former Senate President was in the Senate for 2 times, somebody has been in the Senate for 4 or 5 times, automatically the man for five times is not qualified because he's not former Senate President. The same thing, Deputy Senate President or even principal officers. So I believe this number 1, 2, and 3 should go to allow, once you come fresh as senators elect, everybody is the same. It will be based on the number of times people come to the Senate, so that there will be fresh, there will be level playing field. Otherwise, some people will be automatically edged out.
The proposed amendments targeted key areas such as the qualification and ranking criteria for candidates seeking presiding officer positions, the involvement of senators-elect in such elections, procedures for suspension, among others. All right, let's turn to the Green Chamber now, where the first legislative day appeared scanty, causing the leader of the House to draw attention of the committee chairman to violations of the House rules.
In most cases, meetings are scheduled for 11 a.m., exactly the same time that plenary should be convening. We should discourage the process of taking members away from plenary to committee meetings when they should be sitting here representing their constituencies.
Meetings of committees shouldn't take place at the same time with plenary. So, chairmen of committees, please take note. We will start taking action for those who convey meetings during plenary.
Meanwhile, the protest in Benin City, Edo State, at the new Museum of African Arts prompted a motion of urgent national importance sponsored by lawmakers from Edo State, who fear that private and foreign investors may have more control and influence over its establishment.
The House is worried that the opacity surrounding the project's funding source, land allocations, tax exemptions, and management structure could create avenue for financial inappropriacy, conflict of interest, or the alienation of Nigerians' cultural assets under the guise of development assistance.
The House resolved to set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the establishment, funding sources, and governance framework of the Museum of African Arts. Also during plenary, a bill to adjust age requirement for persons seeking to be a governor or senator was read for the second time.
To be a senator or to be a governor in this country, you need to attain the minimum age of 35, giving a 10 years gap in between. So, Mr. Speaker, it further proves that if a member of this House at 25 years spends 2 terms in the House of Representatives, he will be 33 years, and he will still not be qualified to go to the Senate or to become a governor.
Separately, the House is emphasizing the need to prioritize and boost health emergency response and management of emergency cases in Nigerian hospitals.
The House also disturbed that avoidable deaths have occurred for far too long, and there is no monitoring as private hospitals spring up everywhere without proper emergency response facilities, leading to rejection of emergency patients, stroke cases, and delays leading to deaths. The House convenes that if hospitals in Nigeria are equipped with robust emergency response system, needless deaths will be avoided, while Nigerians who require emergency treatment will have renewed hope in healthcare system in the country. The House resolves urge the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Development to immediately set up a committee to ensure that all hospitals, whether private or public, as a criterion for continuous operation, must have a capacity in facility and personnel to handle emergency cases across the country.
Meanwhile, once again, the matter of police pensioners has been raised in the Green Chamber.
To the retired police officers,
Representative Jesse Onwakalusi, through a matter of urgent national importance, drew attention to continued protests by retired police officers at the gate of the National Assembly.
concerned that at this moment, scores of retired police officers and men have been occupying the entrance of the National Assembly for nearly 2 months, sleeping in the open and pleading for attention, yet remain unattended to.
The chairman of the Committees on Police Affairs and Pensions made a case for the House, pointing fingers instead to the Senate for the delay in the consideration of the police pensions bill.
We have done all the needful on that bill. It's up to Senate now to concur what we submitted to them and take it for assenting to the presidency.
The police, those protesting at the gate, they are not protesting against the House of Representatives, maybe against the Senate.
Which means that we have finished everything about it, third reading, and now transmitted it to the Senate to handle.
The amendment was adopted by the House.
I consider this statement.
And as plenary progressed, a point of order by a member drawing attention to comments made by the chairman of the People's Democratic Party was strongly resisted.
I rise to refer to a statement.
Order, please. BS, please.
Refer to a statement made by a senior citizen of this country and a former minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, calling on a foreign president and some world leaders to come and interfere in internal political matter of the country. Section 2, subsection 1. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Order, please.
The matter died down and the House received news of the passing of a senator.
Clerk just brought to my notice that we lost one of our colleagues in the Senate. His name is Senator Oke Ezea of Enugu North. Shall we rise for 1 minute silence?
The House, in its usual tradition, suspended all other items on the order paper and adjourned plenary. In the meantime, outside the chamber, advocates of the Special Seats Bill continued to push for its passage, drawing solidarity from members as they exited the chamber. Welcome back to the gavel. The push for gender inclusion continues across various sectors as the House of Representatives held a public hearing on a bill to amend the Police Act. A major aspect of the amendment is the mandatory inclusion of at least 15% female representation in police recruitment.
The benefit of having more women in the force cannot be emphasized as enhance the effectiveness of law enforcement agencies in addressing crime that affect women, desperation, such as domestic violence and sexual assault. Women officers are often better equipped to handle these sensitive issues.
According to the United Nations, the percentage of women in Nigerian police force is reported to be between 10% and 12%. Now, this statistics was confirmed by the force gender advisor, AIG Aisha Tubaju, ahead of the celebration of 70 years of women in policing in Nigeria. The bill, which seeks to compel the police to adopt a gender-responsive compliance program covering recruitment, training, posting, discipline, and marital considerations, while also establishing a dedicated unit to monitor compliance, was sponsored by Representative Kafila Togbaru.
We have visited a lot of countries, China, Singapore, different countries, and you find out that women play a very vital role in the leadership of the security architecture of this country. And then you are convinced that no wonder these countries are what they are today.
Research consistently show that police institutions with stronger female representation record fewer incidents of excessive force, handle cases of gender-based violence more effectively, and generally enjoy greater public trust.
Stakeholders threw their weight behind the bill.
The amendment of Section 9, subsection 1F of the Police Act 2020 by inserting the provisions that will address gender historical gaps and discriminatory provisions affecting women in the police force is an applaudable step in the revolutionizing the Nigerian police force, against which the ministry has no objection to the amendment.
Persons in law enforcement generally come to complain to the Commission of some obnoxious law, and they are deprived of either employment, or when they are employed, they're not expected to get married within a stipulated number of years, and even if they get married, they're not expected to be pregnant. And even if they're, so the list goes on. So we at the Commission have seen this in practice, and we are really, really very, very excited that this bill is coming up.
Now, as the drive for gender inclusion continues, the House currently has similar bills seeking to establish or improve women enlistment and recruitment in the various military formations to at least 15%. It's time now for Constituency Focus, and here's Representative Dumna Menedeko, who represents Kanagokana Federal Constituency of Rivers State.
My constituency, which is Kanagokana, is made up of about 36 wards and close to 200 communities. And these communities are all autonomous. And it's in the heart of Ogoni land, which is one of the largest constituencies we have around. And it's a place that development has not been really much felt, particularly the federal presence. But by the grace of God, in our sojourn in the Green Chambers, we have been able to bring home a few projects. I think one of them of note is the constituency headquarters, which happens to be the senatorial headquarters of the Rivers Southeast Senatorial District. And coincidentally too, the headquarters of the Ogoni people, which is Bori. You can't find land there anymore because of issues of expansion. So we just thought it wise, and we're able to make provision in the budget for a road and a very big bridge that takes us from there to a community called Kor. In fact, the road lands between Kor and Kani, which opens into a very large expanse of arable land, and which has made it possible now for the community to grow towards that direction. We had a small program which we do annually, for my immediate community, where we're able to get 188 undergraduates and 32 postgraduate students. We're able to give them what we call education grant. For the undergraduates, 50,000. For the postgraduates, 100,000. We have been able to intervene very seriously in the provision of the consumables, books, computers, and all of that, writing desk, all of that, in about 5 major secondary schools in the constituency. Bodo City Girls in Gokana, Community Secondary School Yege in Gokana. We have the Community Secondary School Bori, which is at the headquarters of the constituency. We have in Berry High School in Berry, and CSS Kono, which is a boundary town between Kana local government and Opobo, Nkoro local government. We have facilitated capital through the CBN program. We had to go train our people, prepare them for that program. And I think if you look at it from those who got between 2.8 million and as much as 9.9 million, we also had those who had 500,000. So if you put all of them together, we have been able to drive home, facilitate over 500 million naira into the constituency.
And just before we go, the Senate within the week summoned the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, giving him 2 weeks to appear before the Committee on Local Content over an alleged $14.86 million fraud linked to investment in Atlantic International Refinery and Petrochemical Limited. Now, following an interactive session, the Senate resolved that the NCDMB management must provide the committee with full documentation on all transactions connected to the alleged conspiracy and dishonest conversion of $14.85 million by December the 2nd. The directive follows recent reports from the EFCC declaring former Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Timothy Silva, wanted in connection with the matter. And according to reports cited during the session, the funds in question represent capital allegedly injected by the NCDMB into Atlantic Refinery for the establishment of a refinery project. The committee also resolved to summon international oil companies over the failure to remit the mandatory 1% capacity building fund, which is intended to support local content development in Nigeria's oil and gas sector. Well, that's all the time we have on The Gavel this week. Thanks for watching. Send feedback to thegavel@channelstv.com. I'm Terry Kumi. Goodbye.